So from a leader's perspective, we now live in what many regard as the most complex business environment ever. Massive inflation, massive cost of living increases, supply chain issues, wars, economic problems, geopolitical problems, basically as we start moving to a bipolar world, basically where we have the US and China and then Europe somewhere in the middle trying to figure something out. So we are now in the most complex business environment ever, which means that from a CEO's perspective, we have this problem. CEOs today now only directly influence 45% of what happens to their business. Things like hiring, product development, and everything else. 55% of what happens to your companies is now happening from external factors, external trends, like sustainability and ESG. It's external to the business. Now, this also means, basically, that as individuals and businesses, we need a kind of new approach. And it's a bit of a problem. Because on the one hand, with all these changes, your organization needs to be able to be resistant to changes. So if something happens, you need to have a resilient core that means that you don't suddenly topple. However, because of all these changes, your organization also needs to be flexible. If there is a change, sometimes you need to be able to pivot on a dime. Maybe there's a new regulation, like we've seen with Mercedes and Volkswagen. Across Europe, sales of combustion engine vehicles are being banned from 2035. Suddenly, you need to move from making this type of thing to this kind of thing, serving this kind of market and serving that kind of market. So this is a balancing act. You need to be resilient and flexible. That's an issue. Now, from a leadership perspective, ask yourselves these questions. In the last 18 months, how many new products have you introduced within your company? If the answer is none, then you're not growing outside your core, and maybe you're not spotting new opportunities. How much of the company have you reinvented? Because with all of this disruption happening, if you don't reinvent yourselves, you're going to get crushed. If you do reinvent yourselves, though, you have a lot of opportunities. And then can you prove that you can move at speed? So if I gave you a massive opportunity today, how quickly could you move into that new market? Because, for example, with banks, before banks moved to DevOps and cloud and everything else, they would typically say, well, if we saw a new market opportunity, it would take us 2 years to move into it, by which point it's gone. These markets are moving very, very quickly. So you need to move from hierarchies within your business to networks, industries to ecosystems. If you want to pivot into a new market, use partners. It's a great way to do it, and cheap. Managers to leaders, and agile business, where agile business, for example, is you have to have a digital core top to bottom. And no, I do not sell digital stuff.